How to build a 6-month emergency fund on one income. 40% of Americans cannot cover a $400 emergency without borrowing money or selling something. $400. That's less than a car repair, less than a medical copay, less than 1 month of groceries for a family of 4. And yet, most financial advice assumes you have 2 incomes, a fat salary, and 0 debt. What happens if you're working with just 1 paycheck? What happens when the advice doesn't fit your reality? That's exactly what we're breaking down today. Step by step, no fluff, no theory, just a real, actionable system for building a 6-month emergency fund on a single income, even if you feel like you're barely staying afloat right now. Let's talk about why this actually matters. Because some people hear 6-month emergency fund and think that's a luxury, something for people who already have money. But here's the truth. The average job search in America takes 3 to 6 months. That's not a worst-case scenario. That's the average. So if you lose your job tomorrow, layoff, medical leave, business closes down, you need enough money to survive while you find your next move. Without that cushion, you're not just stressed, you're making desperate decisions. Taking the wrong job because you need cash fast, going into credit card debt, falling behind on rent. One financial shock turns into a financial avalanche. And here's what makes this even scarier. The median American household has less than $5,000 in savings. $5,000 sounds like a lot until you realize the average American spends about $4,000 per month on living expenses. That's barely 6 weeks of coverage. Not 6 months, 6 weeks. If you're living on one income, the stakes are even higher. There's no backup, no second paycheck stepping in, no safety net from a partner's job. It's just you. Which means building this fund isn't optional. It's survival. But here's the good news. You don't have to do it all at once. And you don't need to make 6 figures to pull this off. You just need the right system. Step 1. Know your actual number. Before you save a single dollar, you need to know your target. And most people get this wrong. They guess. They say, I think I need like $10,000, without actually calculating anything. Here's how you figure out your real emergency fund target. Write down every single expense you have in 1 month. Not what you wish you spent, what you actually spend. Rent or mortgage, utilities, groceries, insurance premiums, minimum debt payments, transportation, phone bill, everything. Let's use a real example. Say your monthly expenses break down like this. Rent at $1,200, utilities at $150, groceries at $400, car payment at $350, insurance at $200, phone at $80, and miscellaneous necessities at $200. That's $2,580 per month. To get your 6-month emergency fund target, you multiply that by 6. That gives you $15,480. That's your number. Write it down. That's the goal. Now here's what most people don't know. Your emergency fund doesn't need to include your current Netflix subscription, your gym membership, or your restaurant spending. In a real emergency, those go away immediately. Your emergency fund covers needs, not wants. When you strip it down to true necessities, your target number often drops by 10 to 15%. That makes the goal more achievable than it first looks. Step 2. Treat it like a bill you can't skip. Here's where most people fall apart. They set a savings goal, they feel good about it, and then life happens. The car needs new tires. There's a birthday dinner. Suddenly, the month is over and nothing went into savings. The fix is simple but powerful. Automate it. Set up a separate high-yield savings account, completely separate from your checking account. On the same day your paycheck hits, automatically transfer a fixed amount to that account. Before you see it, before you spend it, before your brain starts making excuses. This is called paying yourself first, and it's not a new idea. But most people hear it and don't actually do it. Let's talk numbers. If your take-home pay is $3,500 per month and you automate just $250 into savings every pay period, that's $500 per month, you'll have $6,000 saved in 1 year. In 2.5 years, you hit $15,000. But here's what most people don't know. A high-yield savings account can actually help you get there faster. Traditional bank savings accounts are paying around 0.4% interest right now. High-yield savings accounts are paying 4 to 5%. On a $15,000 balance, that difference adds up to over $500 per year in extra interest. That's real money doing work while you sleep. Apps like Marcus by Goldman Sachs, Ally Bank, or SoFi all offer high-yield savings with no minimum balance and no monthly fees. Set it up this week. Automate your first transfer. That one action puts you miles ahead of most people. Step 3. Find the money you're already wasting. One of the biggest myths about saving on one income is that there's simply nothing left over. And for some people, that's genuinely true. But for most people, the money exists. It's just going somewhere you haven't tracked. Here's an exercise that changes everything. Go back through your last 90 days of bank and credit card statements. Every single transaction. Categorize them. You're looking for 3 things: subscriptions you forgot about, spending patterns you didn't realize existed, and categories where you consistently overspend. The average American spends around $230 per month on subscriptions. Streaming services, apps, cloud storage, meal kits, magazine apps they never open. $230. That's almost $2,800 per year. Most of it is completely invisible because it auto-renews and nobody checks. Let's say you audit your subscriptions and cut just $80 per month. That's $960 per year going straight into your emergency fund instead. Now look at your food spending. The average American household throws away about 31% of the food they buy. 31%. If your monthly grocery bill is $400, you're throwing away roughly $120 worth of food every single month. Meal planning, buying in bulk for staples, and shopping with a list can realistically cut that waste in half. That's another $60 per month recovered. Stack these together, and you found $140 per month you didn't know you had, on top of your automated savings. This is how people on one income make real progress, not by making more money, by finding the money that's already slipping through the cracks. Step 4. Use a zero-based budget to manage income and expenses. If you've been trying to figure out how to budget your salary wisely and nothing has stuck, you need to try zero-based budgeting. This is the method where every single dollar of your income gets assigned a job before the month begins. Income minus expenses equals 0. That doesn't mean you spend everything. It means every dollar is accounted for, including the dollars going into savings. Here's how it looks in practice. Say your take-home pay is $3,200 per month. Housing gets $1,200. Groceries get $350. Transportation gets $400. Utilities get $150. Insurance gets $200. Minimum debt payments get $300. Personal spending gets $100. And your emergency fund contribution gets $500. Add it up. $3,200. Every dollar has a destination. Nothing is floating around getting accidentally spent on things you don't remember buying. The reason this works better than just trying to spend less is psychological. When you pre-decide where the money goes, you're making spending decisions with a clear head, not in the moment when you're tired, hungry, or emotionally vulnerable. Impulse spending collapses when you already have a plan. Tools like YNAB, EveryDollar, or even a Google Sheets template can help you build this out. Spend 30 minutes this weekend setting up your zero-based budget for next month. 30 minutes. That's the investment that could change your entire financial trajectory. Step 5. Build in small wins along the way. Here's something the personal finance world doesn't talk about enough. Motivation matters. Saving for a 6-month emergency fund is a long-term goal. We're talking months, potentially years. And the human brain is really bad at staying motivated for long-term goals without checkpoints along the way. So break it down. Don't just think about $15,000. Think about your first $1,000, then your first 1 month of expenses covered, then 3 months, then 6. Celebrate each milestone. Not by blowing money, by acknowledging progress. Tell someone. Move money to a savings goal tracker. Put a sticky note on your wall. Whatever makes it feel real. Here's what most people don't know. Research in behavioral economics shows that people who break large financial goals into smaller milestones are significantly more likely to follow through. The momentum from small wins creates real psychological fuel. It's not soft advice. It's how the brain actually works. Set your first milestone at $1,000. For many people on one income, that takes 2 to 4 months. When you hit it, you've already beaten 40% of Americans who couldn't handle a $400 emergency. That's real progress. That's worth acknowledging. Step 6. Use windfalls strategically. Tax refunds, work bonuses, birthday money, side gig income, overtime pay. Anytime extra money shows up in your life, you have a choice about what to do with it. Most people spend it, and that's understandable. Extra money feels like permission to treat yourself. But if you're trying to build an emergency fund on one income, windfalls are your secret weapon. The average American tax refund is around $3,000. $3,000! If you put your entire tax refund into your emergency fund just one time, you've potentially covered 20 to 25% of your total goal in a single move. Here's a practical rule that makes this sustainable without feeling like punishment. Use the 50-50 split. When a windfall comes in, 50% goes directly to your emergency fund. The other 50% is yours to use however you want. Pay down debt, spend on something you've wanted, whatever. This approach keeps you moving toward your goal while making the process feel less brutal. Let's say you get a $1,200 tax refund. $600 goes into the emergency fund. $600 is yours to enjoy. You've just made meaningful progress without feeling deprived. That's a system you can actually stick to. Step 7. Protect what you build. This one is critical and almost nobody talks about it. Building an emergency fund is only half the battle. The other half is making sure you only use it for actual emergencies. Here's the trap people fall into. They build up $1,000 in savings, and then a concert ticket goes on sale. Or there's a sale at their favorite store. Or a friend's bachelorette trip comes up, and they dip into the emergency fund. Now, they're starting over. You need a clear definition of what counts as an emergency. Job loss, medical emergency, essential car repair that affects your ability to work, critical home repair. That's it. A sale is not an emergency. A social event is not an emergency. A want that showed up unexpectedly is not an emergency. One way to protect yourself is to make the money slightly harder to access. Keep your emergency fund at a different bank than your checking account. Not impossible to access, but not instant. That 2 to 3 business day transfer window is often enough friction to stop impulse withdrawals. You want the money there if you truly need it, but you don't want it so easy to grab that you're in it every time life gets slightly uncomfortable. Also, and this is important, if you ever do have to use part of your emergency fund, rebuild it immediately. Make that your #1 financial priority until it's back up to your target. The emergency fund is not a one-time goal. It's a permanent foundation. Let's bring it all together. You know your number. You're automating contributions before you see the money. You've audited your subscriptions and found hidden cash. You're using zero-based budgeting to manage income and expenses intentionally. You're breaking the goal into milestones that keep you motivated. You're directing windfalls strategically. And you're protecting what you build. That's not a complicated system, but it is a complete one. And on a single income, a complete system beats raw willpower every single time. Building an emergency fund on one income is hard. Nobody is pretending it isn't. But 40% of Americans are one bad week away from a financial crisis. You don't have to be one of them. Start with step 1.